And tennis is a game of errors. Now, we hate to hear it, we hate to do it, but we are going to make a lot of errors when we play every single time we step on a court. And that's the inevitable. But we need to know what are good errors and what are not good errors. 70% of the matches at the top level are based around points finishing in an error. Now, that could be forced or unforced, but it's finishing in an error. So basically, the game is built around players making a mistake. So if you're getting caught up in the whole "I'm making too many errors" narrative, it's important to change that and focus in on, how many times am I forcing my opponent to make an error? I don't count the winners of my players. I try and get them to force a lot of error. One, because it puts more margin and decreases the chance of my players making an error. But two, what it does, it actually puts the opponent into a situation where they start to get more frustrated because they are making errors. Now, as an athlete, you should look to force the error, bring your margins in, play through the center of the court more often, use width only when width is created so you have more space to work within, but also choosing the right shot that is going to limit your error but maximize the ability for your opponent to make an error. And if we can learn to do that as players, we're going to win more points than we lose. And tennis is decided by small margins. It's decided by 4 or 5% every single match. So if we're talking about small margins, it's important to learn that, every time that you are making an error that is an unforced error, we have time and space, then we're actually probably giving the opponent an advantage. So we need to take away those cheaper errors and focus in on how do I force my opponent into error. How do we do that? Well, there's 3 places to make an error: net, long, and wide. The best players very rarely miss wide on fast surfaces. They generally miss more long, and they eliminate the net. So if we can eliminate the sidelines, play through the center of the court more often where the net is lower, and utilize longest parts of the court, so playing more cross court than we do sort of down the line, that's how we can decrease error. We use ball flight over the net to eliminate the net. And force our opponent back into more defensive parts of the court, which allows us to get more time on our ball. So it's really important to know how do we reduce error. The fact of making errors is going to happen. Also remember where you're making errors. So if you're double faulting on break points every single time, obviously that's not a good thing. But if you serve 10 double faults and it's all at the time where you're 40 love up in the game, it's not going to make as big an impact. So when we make an error, how we make an error is more important than the error itself. Learning how to decrease error through forcing the opponent into error and playing with more margin is going to help you to win more points, to win more matches.